Park. That's a lot of things we need to do. People are, well, we ain't got nothing to do with it. That's because you ain't thinking.
Thank you to Baba Attorney Alton Maddox at War. Family, collectively, family, black people, we are not thinking, family. We're not critically thinking. We live in a system of white supremacy, family. Nothing has changed. We're not thinking. If they can murder unarmed people on camera and they doing it over the span of 10 years with no repercussions, family, we're at war. It's just that simple. So that means that you do not vote in their system unless you have a candidate and an army behind them to protect that candidate so they can punish terrorists, white supremacists, 12, all of them are terrorists, and their higher-ups, and the politicians, and the whole nine. Come on, black people. And excuse the video and audio output. I know it's not synced. There was an error in the conversion. I'm about to fix that right quick. Stay tuned.
Ain't nothing going on in your head. Ain't nothing going on in your head. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, hey, these folks said, okay, 25 years ago, I was indefinitely suspended from the practice of law. Ain't nobody yet been able to figure out why is a black NFL ball player under a collective bargaining agreement have more rights than a black attorney has under the U.S. Constitution? Anybody raised that question? How is that possible? That a black attorney under the U.S. Constitution take second seat to Ray Rice of the Baltimore Ravens. And Ray Rice got in trouble for beating his future wife. Here I am defending a 15-year-old girl from an assault, and they caught him on video assaulting a black woman. I mean, this stuff is crazy. I mean, for us to be sit somewhere and don't think we got nothing to do with all this going on, stuff is crazy. I wrote the U.S. Attorney today in a letter I hope most of y'all have gotten. And in that letter, I call for the arrest of Governor Andrew Cuomo and Sheldon Silver. Because if there is 3 men in a room, it has to be a 3-ring circus. And a 3-ring circus acts in concert. So it has to be a conspiracy. And I don't know how in the world you can arrest Sheldon Silver without arresting the rest of that bunch. For starters. And every Negro elected official needs to be behind bars for taking money and doing no job work. You all walk up to these selected officials, hey man, I thought you were behind bars. How did you swing that? You understand? How in the world could you not be behind bars when they said 3 men in a room? And you were taking a paycheck? And not being in the room? You got to be busted. I mean, that's the ultimate insult. That's the ultimate insult. And so, what I'm saying to you is, I think I sent this out earlier, everybody in here and everybody all over New York City, ought to be calling the U.S. Attorney's Office tomorrow, demanding an immediate arrest of all selected officials. Selected. All right? That's what you should be doing tomorrow. And then you should come out to Newark to hear about the African origins of American jurisprudence. Understand why you're so important. Understand that you represent those who came before you. And you all be ashamed of yourself to be in the condition we're in now. For them to have given the world law and everything else under the world, and we sitting here in the condition we're in now, we ought to be ashamed of ourselves. We ought to be ashamed of ourselves. And that's the real deal. It's a lot of things that we have to do. And we're doing them. You know, we're going to be in court on Monday. But you see, the one thing that I know and that you don't know, see, y'all just walk into court. I don't walk into nothing without planning. That's a big difference. That Negro just walking into court and somebody who is planning beforehand for court. Because the courtroom is a battlefield. And what fool is going to walk on the battlefield without a plan? It's a battlefield. And you got to understand and know how to deal with that. I wrote out a few things tonight. I suppose you got a program in the program. But a lot more to be talked about in terms of how you deal with this man. See, I don't believe in the concept that we are a defeated people. I don't believe in that. See, and I believe in the idea that we can go up against anybody. And there'll be evidence in your mind that we can. And that's what is so puzzling. You know, so as we get ready to go into court on Monday, you know, and deal with that. Because, you know, it's hard for me to understand how is it that systematics can be erased from a lease and is no longer entitled to any statutory protections. You know, they just say, okay, erase your name. You don't exist no more. I want to know how can that happen. See, these are things that have to be dealt with. You know, how can you have an apartment and refuse to get repairs for over 2 decades? For over 2 decades. We was in court 5 years ago. They said give them $25,000. We did. Still ain't got no repairs. Now, how did that happen? All right? And you see, this is the thing that I myself, I'm always be a voice in the wilderness. I'm always be a voice in the wilderness. I'm too old to change now. All right, I'm too old to change now. I've always been a voice in the wilderness. I mean, this stuff is up here is easy. Go down to a place called Newnan, Georgia, and stand up down there. All right, go down there. All right, with the Klan and everybody else running around on the loose. I was happy that Brother Peavy went down to my hometown the other day. Let's give Brother Peavy a warm round of applause. You know, it always makes you feel good when somebody says, man, I went down to your hometown. Because that's where it all started. Well, generally it all started. It was a little bit of Michigan, but we got the heck out of there real fast. All right? We got the heck out of there real fast. So we're going on back down to Cayuga County, Georgia, which is prominently mentioned in 100 Years of Lynching. Because one of the worst lynchings in America, and probably the word picnic came from this lynching, was in Cayuga County. That's where I'm from. And see, on the day they got ready to hang Sam Holt, his only crime was demanding his wages. He said, I put a full day in, I want a full day out. And they said, oh, yeah? Then they said, let's get the word out. We're going to restrain this and they grow up. But after we have a picnic, and they had the picnic, then they lynched him and they stripped him. They sold his knuckles in Atlanta for pig feet. W.B. Du Bois said, the lynching of Sam Holt revolutionized me because he was a professor at Atlanta University. And while he was sitting up there in the Ivory Tower in Atlanta, the word came down that they were selling Negroes' knuckles for sale. And they stripped this man, took his skin off his back, took every organ out of his body, castrated him. But he's still remembered today. See, Sam Holt may have died in Cayuga County, but he rose up all over the world. Sam Holt. And that was one of the persons that radicalized me. See, we have to tell the story to our children. That's our real problem. We was up there at Freedom Street for Boys and Girls, and we were telling children about how we used to have to go and traveling up in the woods to relieve ourselves. Children didn't believe it. And I said, well, what is that for you not to believe? They said, we never heard that before. Our parents ain't never told us that. Can you imagine young children? I mean, come on. I mean, you can say, well, I don't really have a degree. I didn't go to college, all that. But you can tell a story, can't you? You can't tell a story? You can't tell what you heard before and pass it on? I mean, this is sad commentary. When we don't have no way of relaying our story to anybody. Sad. I got a call from Pam today, Pam Africa, and she was saying that everybody in Philadelphia were elated that I was on radio today. And it shook Philadelphia up. They were elated. She said, Pam said, you got to come on in Philadelphia on a regular basis. You got to come on in Philadelphia on a regular basis. And I wonder, what could Negroes be thinking about when they turn on radio on Sunday mornings and know that the voices that fought for them can no longer be heard? All right? On a program called Open Mind. All right? You know, this is a real tragedy. It's a real tragedy. You know, this is the town that I really put everything in. And now it is a crime for you to be heard anywhere. You know, I'm going to finish with this. You know, all right? You know, this is a real tragedy. It's a real tragedy. You know, this is the town that I really put everything in. And now it is a crime for you to be heard anywhere. You know, I'm going to finish with this. You know, I said I didn't want to be considered as the only person filing a complaint against people. But Sanford Rubenstein getting on my skin. Sanford Rubenstein getting on my skin. This cracker is done took everything out the black community, but the kitchen sink. Done raped our women. And now he's talking about, I'm going to teach this witch a lesson. He got some nerve. Sanford Rubenstein has some nerve to be coming off like that. And first of all, the woman never accused him. The woman just said, I can't stop bleeding. And she went to the hospital. And the hospital said, upon further examination, we found out you've been raped. And this wasn't just an ordinary rape, this was a gang rape. And then they went out to Rubenstein's pad on the east side. Crime scene unit went out there, collected evidence, and they found 10 used condoms. And some cookies laced with marijuana. And now Cyrus Vance is saying, I'm not going to hold a grand jury investigation. See, this is the problem. This is why I wrote the U.S. Attorney today. Because you see, this to our people has become a state of white men and not a state of equal laws. And that's a real problem. That's a real problem. When white men, without any regard for the law, can just decide what is going to be investigated and what is not. And probable cause is thrown out the window. And they're doing it repeatedly now. They're doing it repeatedly. That's why I'm Eric Garner. They're doing it repeatedly. We just ignore probable cause. There won't be an arrest because we said so. Well, what is this, slavery? Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, what is it, slavery? You know, Negro talking about, well, you know, we're trying to advance ourselves. You know, we just got the first Negro Assembly Speaker. Yeah, we're making progress. Don't that fool Heasty know that he is a fall guy? Doesn't that fool know that? They ain't about to get no power, and they got all the funk they want on him already. And this fool we talk about, I'm getting ready to lead the assembly. Yeah, you get ready to lead them around the chain gang. That's no place you can really lead anybody. And I wrote the U.S. Attorney today, and I said, look, don't confuse this Negro with a butler. Because that's all he is. He's a butler. They just had a movie on the butlers. All right? They just had a movie on him. That's what he is, a butler. He ain't fooling nobody. He can't bust a grape. All right? He can't bust a grape. This is what the deal is. And so, as I said before, we got a lot to do. We got a lot of action to be engaged in. We really want you to be out in Newark tomorrow because we really got some real serious discussions. See, if y'all was in law school, it will be required for you to be in Newark tomorrow. It's just the world of today. Because part of our problem is we don't know how to represent our people. Even if they allow for representation, we wouldn't be able to do it because we're not capable of representing our people. And just like I told Michael Coy, I said, really, these 25 years wasn't bad. It wasn't bad because, you see, in those 25 years, I was able to grow geometrically. See, I was able to grow on that level. Where the slave theater was an incubator. And, we're going to go back to that. We're going back to that. We're going back to that. Because, you see, when we begin to understand that our operation is a business operation. See, not a social operation, a business operation. And we got to be about business. We got to be about business. And so all of the things that we've done in the past, we just got to go back and start them again. See, well, we already know what the formula is. We know what to do. We've done it before. I mean, the mere fact that we are here in 1988, 26 years later, or 27 years later, it'll tell you something. 27 years later, and we're still rolling, and it's going to get bigger and better and better. You got to tell us something. And so, this is what this is all about. It ain't easy to be a voice in the wilderness. It's not easy to be one of those who believe in keeping your mouth shut. But as they say, somebody got to do the work. Somebody got to do it. And you got to realize, when you look back at Medgar Evers, it's a lot easier for me to do it than for Medgar Evers to have done it. Can you imagine Medgar Evers in 1952 in Mississippi? Oh, yeah, you imagine that. All right, you understand what I'm saying? When people say, are you afraid? What am I afraid of? Look at Medgar Evers. What is that to be meant for me to be afraid of? Here this man in Mississippi. See, that's what gave you inspiration. You know, they were talking today, I think that the Rosa Parks is going to be given some commemoration at the Library of Congress. And they are collecting all of her materials and exhibits and documents and all of that. Well, you see, when I went to Howard University, I went for a couple important reasons. First of all, I wanted to get the heck out of Newnan, Georgia. Because I knew it had to be a life better somewhere than Newnan. All right? And, you know, I didn't know where it was, but, you know, I did do a lot of reading. And you see, the Pullman porters every week would bring all the papers. Y'all know that. See, that was the purpose of A. Philip Randolph and the Pullmans. They would bring all the papers from around the country to your location every week. So you will get the Chicago Defender. You will get the Amsterdam News. You will get the Washington Afro-American. You will get the Pittsburgh Courier. And I would sit there every week and read those papers. Because I didn't know what the world was beyond Newnan. I was in the Cotton Curtain. But I knew it had to be something. And what I knew was if I read long enough, I would get an idea what the real world was. See, I didn't buy the white man's fallacy that curiosity killed the cat. You know, Cracker would say, don't be too curious, Negro. Curiosity killed the cat. All right? You understand? That was these old slave teachings. All right? You know, that you be caught up in. You know, and some of us just stop being curious. Some of us just stopped being curious. But there were a few of us who just pushed on. And so every week they would bring all these papers, and I would get in them. And I would remember every week I would be reading about Peg Leg Pace down there in Newnan, Georgia. I said, man, this is something. And you got to remember now, we couldn't even swim nowhere. And then, you know, we see the tennis courts and stuff. I said, man, Negro living like that? And I said, well, you know, I got to get out of here and find out what the rest of the world looks like. You know, so then as I began to make my inquiries, I made many because I was constantly studying all kinds of things. I studied about the Library of Congress. I said, the Library of Congress. And they said, well, all of the information and knowledge in the world is at the Library of Congress. I said, what? And I said, you mean I can go in the Library of Congress and learn about slavery and learn about plantation management and learn about military institutions based on slavery? I can learn all that in the Library of Congress? And I said, man, I'm going to D.C. I'm going to D.C. So my teachers found out I wanted to go to Washington, D.C. That Negro ain't getting ready to go to Washington, D.C. They ain't going to let him in up there. I said, what? They ain't going to let you in up at Washington, D.C. You may well stay on down here. I said, well, one way or the other, I'm getting the heck out of here. I sent my little letter up to D.C., told the admissions committee how much I admired Howard University and the whole 9 yards, even though I had never really heard of Howard. You understand? I had never heard of Howard. But I put my little stuff in, and I got accepted. And when I got accepted, and I got on that iron horse, smoking out of Newnan, I said, man, the first place I'm going to when I get to D.C. is the Library of Congress. You understand that? The Library of Congress. And I got a job at the Library of Congress, which made me eligible to stay in those library stacks every day, all day. Studying about how they really did it. You see, I'm not so sure there's a Willie Lynch letter, but there is Willie Lynch literature. All right, there is Willie Lynch literature. And so I was able to really start studying about us and how the slave master broke us in. Because all that literature is right there in the Library of Congress, right to this very day. It's all there. And I studied that. And studied. Then I met people like Kwame Ture, Jamil Abdul-Amin, also known H. Rap Brown. And so when I went back to Newnan and I was on trial for assaulting white police officers, the prosecutor said, that boy, when he left here, he was one thing, but we don't know what he is now. And he said, he been up there with Stokely Carmichael and H. Rap Brown. Now, we're dealing with a menace now. We got to put him in jail for life. I said, man, how in the world he cracking know all of this about me? They had the whole 9 yards. They knew more about me than I knew about myself. That's on the real side. State of Georgia versus Alton Maddox. But you see, I always tell people this. You see, the ancestors are good. Y'all hear that? The ancestors are good. The idea that I could come out of Newnan doing all the things I did in Newnan and escape prison, not one time, but more than once. Because Miss Bridges was our draft board director. And she said during the Vietnam War, Negro, if you get out of school and lose your exemption, that you're going to the war. And I said, hell no, I'm not going. That's right. I said, oh, hey, I heard Muhammad Ali say we ain't got nothing to fight for in Vietnam. Hey, I ain't never been there, but I believe what he said. He said, we ain't got nothing to fight for. And they said, no, you're going to prison. I said, no, I'm not. And I didn't go. And I didn't go to the military either. You understand? That's on the real side. So, you know, when you look back at all of this, you have a lot to be thankful for. A lot of things that you've done that you can be very appreciative of, and we are. And this is the reason why, you know, we just keep going and keep going and keep going. And this is why we have the family that we have. You know, we just like every other family. You know, sometimes we don't like each other. All right, you know, I understand that, you know. Well, I know how families operate, you know, and I'm not concerned just because somebody's feelings are hurt one day. You know, that's the way it is. That's the way it is with families. You know, but it's still a family because it's still the only thing you got. See, that's why it's so important. It's the only thing you have. See, you can't go nowhere else and take your dirty laundry because nobody else will going to allow you to use their washing machine to clean it up. So in the final analysis, this is all that we have. And this is the reason why we thank Dred Scott and Chief Roger Taney for reminding us that we are a distinct class. See, a lot of people read Dred Scott wrong. Yeah, Dred Scott said, Taney said all the things that he's been accused of saying. But what he also said was true is, Negro, y'all are a class. And I don't care what y'all do. Y'all gonna always be a part of that class. So you can't change that. That's the reason why I always tell you that you got to read black history, legal history, and military science. So you got to know how to read it. Now, I read it different than most people read it because I come to different conclusions. You see, when you start talking about Dred Scott, you start talking about Plessy versus Ferguson. Well, Plessy versus Ferguson really said, y'all ain't going to never be nothing but Negroes. Because mulattoes tried to go to the Supreme Court and get a new declaration, a new designation. They wanted to say, well, because we got a little bit of white blood in us, we all be treated a little different than a nigga like Maddox. All right, yeah. They went there and they said, no. And all you niggas say. You understand? I don't care who you are. Y'all are the same. You ain't getting out of this. All right? And that was the real deal, you know. And this stuff is comical. You know, we have a lot of fun with it. We make the best light we can of it. But it's true. You know, and this is the way that they see us. And that's really why, I don't go nowhere else but with my own people. Yeah, I know that I could go among white folks and say I'm smarter than most Negroes. You know, I know that. All right? But I know what the real deal is. You understand? I know the real deal. Ain't no question about it. You know, I know what this is all about. You know, that's the reason why I'm going to leave you with this. I'm writing a letter to the chief judge tomorrow, telling why we need a larger courtroom. Now, it probably be denied. I don't know. But you see, power concedes nothing without a demand. It never had and never will. That's the reason why I make demands all the time. Every time I wake up in the morning, I make a demand on somebody. Whether it's granted or not, I make a demand. And we will still win. You see, the last time we was in court was December 15. You know what December 15 was? The 223rd anniversary of the Bill of Rights. That's the last time we was in court. The 223rd anniversary of the Bill of Rights was the day we was in court. And I wrote them a letter and said, we need a large courtroom. And when I write this letter tomorrow, they're going to have egg on their face because they denied it. They denied it. But you see, the one great thing the Black Panther said, which is very important, a lot of us get so scared because it came out of the Panther's mouths that we get nervous about it. But they said one thing is very important, power to the people. Power to the people. All right, that's real. So you got to operate on that. Power to the people. And that's what the Bill of Rights is about. It's about the people. The people saying that we want rights.